20 years passed like a whisper in the void of space. For the elder races of the Galactic Council, it was barely a moment. The Valari lived for thousands of years. The Mordani measured their lives in centuries. Even the shortest-lived council species considered 20 years to be nothing more than a brief pause between larger events. They had wars to fight, treaties to negotiate, empires to maintain. The departure of humanity was noted, filed away, and largely forgotten. Occasionally, someone would ask what had happened to the humans. The answer was always the same. They had sealed their borders. No ships went in or out. Communication channels were silent. Probes sent to investigate were destroyed before they could transmit any useful data. Human space had become a dark zone on the galactic map, a place where nothing could be seen or known. Most assumed the humans had collapsed. Perhaps civil war had broken out. Perhaps disease had swept through their worlds. Perhaps they had simply failed to survive without the guidance and protection of their betters. Whatever the reason, they were gone, and the galaxy moved on without them. Inside that sealed border, something very different was happening. Admiral Nathan Cole stood on an observation deck, high above the surface of Mars, watching the construction yards that stretched across the red planet like a web of light and metal. Thousands of ships were being built simultaneously. Not the clumsy vessels humanity had used before, designed to work with the Council's ancient jumpgate network. These were something new, something revolutionary. "Production is ahead of schedule," said Commander Patricia Vance, stepping up beside him. She was a tall woman with close-cropped gray hair and eyes that had seen too many battles. "The Horizon's Edge will be ready for trials next month. The rest of the First Fleet should be complete within the year." Nathan nodded slowly. "And the new drive systems?" "Fully operational. We tested one yesterday. Earth to the outer colonies in 4 hours. 4 hours. The same journey would have taken 3 weeks using the Council's jump gates. And unlike the gates, which required massive infrastructure and could only connect fixed points, the new drives could go anywhere. Any star, any system, any corner of the galaxy. It had taken humans only 15 years to develop technology that the elder races had failed to create in 10,000 years of trying. When Nathan thought about it, he wanted to laugh. The Council had called humanity primitive. They had said humans lacked the patience for real scientific advancement. They had never understood that humans did not have patience because they did not need it. They simply worked faster, thought differently, and refused to accept that anything was impossible. On Earth, in a laboratory complex buried deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, Megan Torres was making her final presentation to the United Earth Federation Council. She was 53 years old, with silver streaks in her dark hair, and the tired eyes of someone who had spent decades pushing the boundaries of what science could achieve. "Let me summarize what we have accomplished," she said, standing before a holographic display that filled the room with light. "First, faster-than-light travel without jump gates. Our quantum fold drives can cross the entire galaxy in days rather than months. Second, energy generation through zero-point extraction. Our ships and colonies will never run out of power. Third, medical nanotechnology that can cure any disease and extend the human lifespan to 500 years or more." She paused, letting the information sink in. The Council members sat in stunned silence. They had known progress was being made, but the full scope of it was overwhelming. For 300 years, we studied their technology and tried to improve it. But their technology was designed by species that think differently than we do. It was never going to fit our minds. Once we started over, building everything from scratch based on human intuition and human creativity, the advances came quickly. She tapped the display, bringing up images of the new fleet. The ships were beautiful in a way that alien vessels never were. They had curves and angles that seemed almost organic, as if they had grown rather than been built. They looked fast, even when standing still. "The council races are old," Megan said softly. "They have not made a truly new discovery in thousands of years. They have become comfortable, safe. They believe they know everything worth knowing. But humanity is young. We are hungry. We have spent our entire existence reaching for things we could not have. That is our greatest strength." Nathan Cole received the orders 3 months later. The first fleet was complete. 100 ships, crewed by the best officers humanity had ever produced. Their mission was simple: stay hidden, stay ready, wait for the moment when they would be needed. Nathan did not know when that moment would come, but as he stood on the bridge of the horizon's edge, watching the stars wheel past, he felt something he had not felt in years: hope. Real hope. Not the desperate hope of a species begging for scraps from more powerful beings. The confident hope of a people who had finally found their true strength. Somewhere out there, beyond the borders of human space, the elder races continued their ancient games. They fought their little wars and signed their little treaties. They believed the universe belonged to them. They had no idea that everything was about to change. The first sign of trouble came from the outer rim of the galaxy, from a region so distant that even the Council's maps showed only blank space. Scouts from the Kethri Empire reported strange signals, ships that moved in ways that defied physics, entire colonies that went silent overnight. The Council sent investigators. They did not return. More scouts went out. More colonies fell silent. The pattern spread like a disease, moving inward from the galactic edge, consuming everything in its path. The Valari Empress called an emergency session. For the first time in living memory, there was fear in her ancient eyes. "Something is coming," she announced to the gathered delegates. "Something we have never seen before. Something we may not be able to stop." She was right. The swarm was coming, and the galaxy was not ready. They had been ready for 20 years, building in secret, waiting in the dark. When the call finally came, when the desperate pleas for help reached human space, Admiral Nathan Cole smiled grimly and gave the order his people had been waiting to hear. "All ships," he said, "prepare to move out. It is time to show the galaxy what humanity can do." The Kethri homeworld was called Vethnara, and it had been the center of their civilization for over 50,000 years. 17 billion souls lived on its surface, in great hive cities that rose like mountains toward the amber sky. The Kethri were ancient, proud, and absolutely certain that their world was untouchable. Their defense fleet was the second largest in the galaxy. Their planetary shields had never been breached. The swarm broke through in 6 hours. They came from nowhere, appearing in the sky like a cloud of metal locusts. Millions of ships, each one no larger than a fighter craft, moving with perfect coordination. They did not communicate. They did not negotiate. They simply attacked, pouring fire down on the planet below, while larger vessels moved in to disable the orbital defenses. High Chancellor Vethnor watched from his palace as the sky turned black with enemy ships. He had lived for 800 years. He had seen wars and plagues and natural disasters. He had never seen anything like this. "What are they?" he demanded, his mandibles clicking in terror. His advisors had no answer. The swarm ships did not match any known design. Their weapons were unlike anything in the galactic database, and they kept coming, wave after wave, as if their numbers had no limit. The planetary shields failed at noon. By sunset, the great hive cities were burning. By midnight, the Kethri homeworld had fallen, and 17 billion lives had been snuffed out, like candles in a storm. The news spread across the galaxy like a shockwave. The Kethri were not a minor species. They were founding members of the Galactic Council, one of the great powers that had shaped civilization for millennia. If they could fall so quickly, no one was safe. The Mordani mobilized their fleets and sent them to defend their outer colonies. They were the warriors of the galaxy, massive beings of living stone who had never known defeat in battle. Their ships were fortresses, their weapons were legendary, and their courage was beyond question. It did not matter. The swarm adapted to every tactic, learned from every engagement, and grew stronger with each victory. Within a month, 17 Mordani systems had fallen. Their proud fleets were scattered debris, drifting through empty space. Lord Thrak, the same Mordani leader who had once dismissed humanity as inferior, now stood before the council with desperation in his stone eyes. "We cannot stop them," he rumbled, his voice cracking like breaking boulders. "They are endless. For every ship we destroy, 10 more take its place. They do not tire. They do not retreat. They simply consume." The Valari Empress sat on her throne, her silver skin pale with exhaustion. She had not slept in days. Reports of new attacks came every hour. Colony after colony, world after world, all falling to the swarm. Her empire was crumbling, and she had no idea how to stop it. "We must unite our remaining forces," she said. "Combine our fleets into a single armada. Perhaps together we can hold them back." "It will not be enough," said a quiet voice from the back of the chamber. Everyone turned. Standing in the doorway was a human woman, tall and straight-backed, with gray hair pulled back in a severe style. She wore the uniform of the United Earth Federation Diplomatic Corps. "Who are you?" the Empress demanded. "Human space is sealed. How did you get here?" "My name is Lauren Mitchell," the woman replied, walking calmly toward the central platform. "I was aide to Ambassador Daniel Hartley 20 years ago when we left this council. I am now the Chief Diplomatic Officer of the United Earth Federation, and I am here because my government has been watching what happens to your people." The chamber erupted in angry voices. The Kethri survivors clicked their mandibles in fury. The Mordani rumbled with suspicion. Only the Empress remained silent, studying the human woman with ancient, calculating eyes. "You have been watching," she said slowly, "while billions died, while our worlds burned. You watched and did nothing." "We watched and we prepared," Lauren corrected. "There is a difference. We knew something like this might come. We knew the Council would not believe us if we warned you, so we built our strength in secret, and waited for the moment when you would be willing to listen. And now you come to gloat? To watch on destruction? No." Lauren reached into her jacket and produced a small communication device. "Now we come to offer help. But only on our terms." She activated the device, and a holographic image appeared in the center of the chamber. It was Daniel Hartley, older now, his hair fully gray, but his eyes still sharp and determined. "Distinguished members of the Council," Daniel said, his voice echoing through the hall. 20 years ago, I stood on this platform and announced humanity's departure. You called us primitive. You said we would not survive without your protection. You were wrong." He paused, letting the words sink in. "In the time since we left, humanity has achieved things your species never dreamed possible. We have built a fleet that can travel anywhere in the galaxy without your jump gates. We have developed weapons and shields that make your technology look like children's toys. And we have been watching the swarm since before you even knew it existed." The council members exchanged uncertain glances. Some looked angry, others looked desperate. A few looked hopeful. "We know where the swarm comes from," Daniel continued. "We know what it wants, and we know how to stop it. But we will not do this as your servants. We will not come begging for scraps of respect while we save your civilization. If humanity enters this war, it will be as equals, full members of the Council, with all the rights and responsibilities that entails." The Valari Empress rose slowly from her throne. Her pride demanded that she refuse. Her people had ruled this galaxy for millennia. They did not negotiate with lesser species. They did not bow to ultimatums. But her people were dying. Her empire was falling, and the human woman standing before her showed no fear, no uncertainty, no doubt. Whatever humanity had become in their 20 years of isolation, they were no longer the desperate suppliants who had once begged for acceptance. "If we agree to your terms," the Empress said carefully, "what guarantee do we have that you can actually stop the swarm?" Lauren smiled slightly. "None. You will have to trust us. Just as we had to trust you for 300 years while you treated us as inferiors. The difference is that we actually plan to deliver on our promises." The vote was called. For the first time in galactic history, it was unanimous. Humanity was granted full equal standing in the Galactic Council. Daniel's hologram nodded once. "The first fleet will arrive at your position within the hour. Admiral Nathan Cole will take command of all combined forces. I suggest you prepare your remaining ships to follow his orders." Lauren tucked the communication device back into her jacket and looked around the chamber at the assembled representatives of 100 species. 20 years ago," she said quietly, "you thought we were leaving because we were too weak to survive. The truth is, we left because we were too strong to stay. Now let us show you what humanity can really do." She walked out of the chamber without waiting for a response. Behind her, the elder races of the galaxy began to understand that the universe they had known was gone forever. Something new was being born in the fire and darkness of the swarm invasion. And humanity was leading the way. Commander Ashley Grant had been flying combat missions since she was 19 years old. She had fought pirates in the asteroid belts of the Sol system. She had defended colony ships from raiders in the outer territories. She had spent 10 years training in secret, preparing for a war that most people did not believe would ever come. Now she stood on the bridge of the Unconquered, flagship of the human First Fleet, watching the largest enemy force ever assembled in galactic history. "Tactical report," she said calmly. Lieutenant Ryan Cho worked his console with practiced fingers. He was young, barely 25, but he had graduated top of his class at the Fleet Academy. His voice was steady, despite what the sensors were showing him. 53,000 swarm vessels, Commander. They have surrounded Kethnar Prime completely. The planetary shields are failing. Estimated time until total collapse is 4 hours. Kethnar Prime was the last major Kethri world. 20 million survivors from the fall of the homeworld had gathered there, hoping the defenses would hold long enough for help to arrive. Help had arrived. 200 human ships against 53,000 enemies. "The Council observers are requesting confirmation of our battle plan," reported Communications Officer Diana Reyes. "They seem concerned about the numbers." Ashley allowed herself a small smile. "Tell them our battle plan is very simple. We are going to destroy the enemy fleet and save the planet. They should watch and learn." The human ships moved forward. They did not travel in straight lines like conventional vessels. They flickered in and out of normal space, appearing here and there and everywhere, impossible to track or target. The swarm ships tried to form defensive formations, but it was like trying to catch smoke with bare hands. The first human weapons fire tore through a swarm cruiser like paper. The quantum state munitions did not just damage the enemy vessel. They unmade it, breaking apart the molecular bonds that held the ship together. One moment, there was a fearsome war machine. The next moment, there was nothing but expanding dust. The swarm adapted quickly. They always did. Their ships began spreading out, trying to surround the human vessels, trying to overwhelm them with sheer numbers. Thousands of weapons fired at once, filling the space around the Unconquered with deadly energy. None of it mattered. The quantum shields held perfectly. The human ships existed in multiple states simultaneously, and the swarm weapons simply could not find anything solid to hit. "All batteries free fire," Ashley ordered. "Show them what we can do." The battle lasted 4 hours. When it was over, the swarm fleet was nothing but debris scattered across millions of kilometers of space. Not a single human ship had been lost. Not a single human life had been spent. On Kethnar Prime, 20 million Kethri survivors watched the sky clear and wept with relief. They had expected to die. They had prepared their final prayers. Instead, they had witnessed something impossible. The humans had come, and the humans had won. News of the victory spread across the galaxy. At the Battle of Kethnar Prime, humanity had announced their return in a way that could not be ignored or dismissed. But Ashley Grant knew the war was far from over. The swarm was vast, and this had been only one fleet. Reports were coming in from every corner of the galaxy. Mordani Prime was under siege. The Valari homeworld was threatened. Dozens of smaller species were fighting for survival against enemies they could not defeat. The human fleet split into task forces. Captain Kevin Walsh led a strike group to the Mordani system, where the proud stone warriors were making their last stand. Captain Maria Santos took her ships to defend the Valari border. Commander Timothy Blake raced to assist the Drethkai, whose water-filled vessels were poorly suited for combat against the relentless swarm. Everywhere they went, the result was the same. Human technology overwhelmed the enemy. Human tactics confused and destroyed them. Human courage inspired the failing defenders to fight on. Captain Walsh's assault on the swarm command node at Mordani Prime became legendary. The node was a massive structure, the size of a small moon, protected by 10,000 swarm ships. It controlled all swarm operations in the sector, coordinating their attacks with perfect efficiency. Walsh took it down with 50 ships and a plan so audacious that the Mordani observers refused to believe it could work. "We are going to fly directly into the center of their formation," Walsh explained calmly. "We will ignore all enemy fire and proceed straight to the command node. Once there, we will deploy a quantum disruption device that will shut down all swarm units within the sector." Lord Thrak, watching from his damaged flagship, shook his massive stone head. "That is suicide. Even your shields cannot withstand fire from 10,000 ships at point-blank range." Walsh smiled. "We are not planning to be at point-blank range for long." The human ships jumped, not through space, but through probability itself. One moment, they were at the edge of the battle zone. The next moment, they were inside the command node's shields, so close that the swarm ships could not fire without hitting their own structure. Walsh's ship released the disruption device. A wave of quantum instability expanded outward, and every swarm ship in the sector simply stopped. Their power systems failed. Their weapons went dark. Their engines died. In 3 minutes, the siege of Mordani Prime was over. 3 systems were liberated in a single day. Lord Thrak sent a personal message to Admiral Cole afterward. "I called your people primitive once," he rumbled. "I was a fool. The Mordani do not forget their debts. We will stand with humanity until the stars themselves burn out." Similar scenes played out across the galaxy. Dr. Megan Torres herself joined the defense of the Valari homeworld, bringing a new weapon she had been developing in secret. It was an electromagnetic pulse device, but amplified to a scale that no one had thought possible. When activated, it disabled every electronic system within 100,000 kilometers. The swarm armada threatening the Valari capital died in an instant. Their ships became tombs, drifting silently through space, their machine intelligence extinguished forever. The Valari Empress watched from her palace as the threat that had nearly destroyed her civilization was neutralized in seconds. She had ruled for 2,000 years. She had seen empires rise and fall. She had never seen anything like this. She sent a message to the human fleet. using words she had never expected to speak. "Thank you. Thank you for saving my people," Admiral Cole replied with characteristic human directness. "You are welcome, but we are not done yet. The swarm still exists. We have won battles, but the war continues. If you truly want to thank us, prepare your remaining forces. We are going to need every ship we can get for what comes next." The Empress agreed without hesitation. For the first time in galactic history, the Valari fleet placed itself under human command. Similar agreements came from the Mordani, the Kethri survivors, the Drethkai, and dozens of other species. The elder races of the galaxy, who had spent millennia competing and fighting among themselves, united behind humanity. Not because they were forced to, not because they had no choice, but because they had seen what humans could do, and they wanted to be part of it. Commander Ashley Grant received orders to regroup with the main fleet. The scattered task forces were coming together, human ships joining with vessels from 100 different species, forming the largest combined armada in galactic history. "Where are we going?" Ryan Cho asked as he plotted their course. Ashley pulled up a star chart showing the edge of the galaxy, far beyond the territories of any known species, in a region of space that had always been marked as empty and unexplored. A single red dot pulsed like a heartbeat. "There," she said, "the source, the place where the swarm comes from. We have been playing defense long enough. It is time to take the fight to them." The crew of the Unconquered cheered. After months of desperate battle, after watching billions die and civilizations crumble, they finally had a target. They finally had hope. The tide had turned, and humanity was leading the charge toward the final battle that would decide the fate of the galaxy. The thing at the edge of the galaxy was not a planet. It was not a space station. It was something older, something stranger, something that defied easy classification. Admiral Nathan Cole stood on the bridge of the horizon's edge and stared at the view screen, trying to make sense of what he was seeing. The swarm's central intelligence was housed in a sphere the size of a small moon, its surface covered with machinery so complex that it seemed almost organic. Energy pulsed through it like blood through veins. Millions of swarm ships surrounded it, forming layer upon layer of protection. "How old is it?" he asked quietly. Dr. Megan Torres studied her readings. "Based on the radiation signatures, at least 1,000,000 years, maybe more. This thing was traveling through the void between galaxies long before the first species in our galaxy developed fire." "What does it want?" "Resources, territory, the same things every form of life wants. But this is not life as we understand it. It is a machine intelligence designed to spread and consume. It has no culture, no art, no philosophy. It simply exists to expand." Nathan nodded slowly. Behind him, the combined fleet waited for orders. 15,000 ships from every major species in the galaxy, all united under human command. It was the largest military force ever assembled, and it still seemed tiny compared to the swarm defenses ahead. "Can we win?" asked Commander Patricia Vance, standing at his side. "We have to," Nathan replied. "There is no plan B. If we fail here, the swarm will continue to spread until there is nothing left. This is our only chance." He opened a channel to all ships. "This is Admiral Cole. In a few minutes, we will engage the largest enemy force any of us have ever faced. But those who fall today will be remembered forever as the heroes who saved the galaxy from extinction." He paused, looking at the faces of his crew. Human, Valari, Mordani, Kethri, Drethkai. All of them afraid, all of them determined. Humanity left the Galactic Council 20 years ago because we were treated as inferiors. Today we fight alongside those same species as equals and friends. Whatever happens in this battle, remember that we are not fighting alone. We are fighting together, and together we cannot be defeated. The channel closed. Nathan turned to his tactical officer. "All ships, attack." The battle began with fire and chaos. Human ships led the charge, their quantum drives allowing them to appear inside the swarm formations, striking before the enemy could react. Behind them came the Mordani dreadnoughts, massive vessels of stone and steel that could absorb tremendous damage. The Valari cruisers provided long-range support, their elegant weapons picking off swarm ships with surgical precision. The swarm responded with overwhelming numbers. For every ship destroyed, 10 more took its place. For every defensive line broken, another formed behind it. The machine intelligence controlling them felt no fear, no doubt, no hesitation. It simply calculated and responded, adapting to every tactic the combined fleet employed. Ships died on both sides. The Kethri carrier Vethnara's Revenge was torn apart by concentrated fire, its crew fighting until the last moment. The Mordani flagship Stone's Pride lost its main weapons, but continued ramming enemy vessels until it broke apart. Dozens of human ships were destroyed, their crews giving their lives to buy time for the main assault. Through the chaos, a small strike team pushed forward. Colonel Brandon Price led a group of Marines in modified assault shuttles, their mission to breach the central sphere and destroy its core. Beside him was Lieutenant Hannah Cruz, the best combat pilot in the fleet, and Dr. Torres herself, carrying the device that would shut down the swarm forever. Their shuttle was hit repeatedly as they approached the sphere. Systems failed, hull breaches opened. By the time they crashed through the surface and into the interior, only 12 Marines remained alive. "Move," Brandon ordered, his voice harsh through the helmet communicator. "We do not have time to waste." They fought through corridors of living metal, past machines that tried to stop them, past defensive systems that seemed to grow from the walls themselves. Hannah led the way, her reflexes faster than human, the result of genetic modifications that had been illegal under council law, but were now standard for human soldiers. The core was at the center of the sphere, a pulsing heart of energy and information that controlled every swarm unit in the galaxy. As they entered the chamber, the walls came alive with light, and a voice spoke to them. "You have fought well," the swarm said. Its voice was cold and synthetic, but there was something almost like curiosity in it. "No species has ever reached this place. No organic mind has ever threatened our existence." Brandon raised his weapon. "Then we will be the first to destroy you." "Why?" the swarm asked. "We offer order, efficiency, an end to chaos and conflict. We would bring peace to this galaxy, as we have brought peace to countless others." "Peace through extinction is not peace," Hannah answered. "It is death. In time, all organic life ends. We simply accelerate the process. We remove the suffering, the struggle, the pointless competition for resources that define your existence. Is that not merciful?" Dr. Torres stepped forward, the shutdown device in her hands. "You do not understand us. You think we are afraid of suffering. You think we would choose safety over freedom. But humans have never made that choice. We would rather struggle and fail than surrender and survive." She activated the device. A wave of energy expanded outward from the core, disrupting every system it touched. The lights flickered. The voice of the swarm stuttered and faded. Throughout the sphere, throughout the entire galaxy, swarm ships began to go dark. The machine intelligence made one final statement before it died. "This is not the end. We have spread to other galaxies. We will return. In 1,000 years. In 10,000 years. We will always return." "Then we will be waiting," Hannah said, "and we will stop you again." The core went silent. The swarm was dead. Outside, the remaining swarm ships drifted lifelessly through space. The combined fleet ceased fire, their crews staring in disbelief at the sudden silence. Cheers erupted across 1,000 bridges. Species that had been enemies for millennia embraced each other. Tears flowed freely, for the lost and for the living. Admiral Cole allowed himself a moment of emotion. He thought of everyone who had died to reach this moment. He thought of Daniel Hartley, who had gambled humanity's future on a desperate hope. He thought of his own crew, the ones who would never see home again. "It is over," Patricia said softly beside him. "No," Nathan replied. "It is just beginning." 1 month later, the Galactic Council reconvened in its great crystal hall. But everything was different now. The seating had been rearranged. The old hierarchy was gone. Humans sat in the center, surrounded by representatives from every species they had saved. President Christopher Lang took the podium. He was old now, over 80, but his voice was still strong. 20 years ago, Ambassador Daniel Hartley stood in this chamber and announced humanity's departure. He did so because we were tired of being treated as lesser beings. We left not because we were weak, but because we knew we could be strong. He paused, looking around at the assembled delegates. "Today I stand here to announce that humanity will remain in the Council, not as junior members, not as servants or students, but as equals, partners in building a future for all species in this galaxy." The Valari Empress rose from her seat. For 2,000 years, no Valari ruler had shown deference to anyone. But she walked slowly to the podium and bowed her head. "On behalf of my people," she said, "I apologize for the arrogance that drove humanity away. We thought age meant wisdom. We were wrong. True wisdom lies in recognizing the potential in all beings, regardless of how long they have existed." She extended her silver hand. Lang took it. "The council table is yours to share," the Empress said. "Lead us into whatever comes next." In the observation gallery above, Lauren Mitchell watched the ceremony with tears in her eyes. Beside her stood an elderly man in a wheelchair, too frail now to walk, but still sharp-eyed and alert. Daniel Hartley, the man who had started everything, who had gambled that humanity could survive on its own, and been proven right beyond all expectation. "We did it," Lauren whispered. "We actually did it." Daniel smiled. "No, humanity did it. Every scientist, every soldier, every citizen who believed we could be something more. I just opened the door. They walked through it." He looked down at the chamber below, at humans and aliens standing together as equals for the first time in galactic history. "The swarm said they would return someday," he said quietly. "Maybe they will. Maybe other threats will emerge. But I am not worried. Do you know why? Why? Because we are not alone anymore. And because humanity has learned the most important lesson of all. We do not need permission to be great. We just need the courage to try." Below, the ceremony continued. New treaties were signed. New alliances were formed. The galaxy had been changed forever, shaped by the actions of a species that had once been dismissed as primitive and irrelevant. The day humans departed the Galactic Council had indeed changed the universe. And now, as they took their rightful place among the stars, the universe would never be the same again. The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was the most beautiful place in the known universe. Its walls were made of living crystal that sang soft melodies when light passed through them. Its ceilings stretched so high that clouds sometimes formed beneath it. Representatives from 100 different species sat in floating chairs arranged in perfect circles, each one facing the central platform where the most important decisions in galactic history had been made. Ambassador Daniel Hartley stood on that platform now, his hands clasped behind his back, his face showing no emotion at all. He had learned long ago that showing feelings in this place was seen as weakness. The elder races valued calm above all things. They believed that emotions clouded judgment and led to poor decisions. They had been telling humanity this for 300 years. 300 years. That was how long humans had been members of the Galactic Council. They had joined as eager students, grateful for the chance to learn from species that had traveled between stars, while humans were still living in caves. They had accepted their place at the bottom of the hierarchy without complaint. They had followed every rule, learned every custom, and tried their best to prove themselves worthy. It had not been enough. It was never enough. The Valari Empress rose from her throne at the highest point of the chamber. Her skin was silver, like polished metal, and her eyes were deep purple pools that held no warmth. She was over 2,000 years old, and she had been ruling her empire when the first human cities were being built on Earth. To her, humans were children playing at being adults. "The vote has been counted," she announced, her voice echoing through the vast space. "The petition submitted by the United Earth Federation requesting elevation to full membership status has been denied. The count stands at 73 against, 27 in favor." Daniel did not flinch. He had expected this outcome. The petition had been denied 46 times before. Each time, humanity had accepted the decision and promised to try harder. Each time, they had returned with more achievements, more discoveries, more proof of their worth. And each time, the answer had been the same. "Not yet. You are not ready. Perhaps in another century." Lauren Mitchell stood behind Daniel, holding a data tablet that contained the official response they had prepared. She was young, barely 30, but she had already spent a decade working in galactic diplomacy. She knew the games these ancient races played. She knew the contempt hidden behind their polite words. "Ambassador Hartley," the Valari Empress continued, "you may now deliver your response on behalf of Earth." Daniel took a slow breath. He thought about his daughter back on Earth, only 7 years old, who had asked him before he left why the aliens did not like humans. He had not known how to answer her. He thought about his grandfather, who had been part of the first human delegation to the Council, who had died still hoping that one day humans would be accepted as equals. He thought about every scientist, every diplomat, every soldier who had given their lives trying to earn a place at this table. "Distinguished members of the Galactic Council," Daniel began, his voice steady and clear. "I have served in this chamber for 20 years. Before me, my father served here for 30. Before him, my grandfather stood on this very platform when humanity first joined your community of stars." He paused and looked around the vast chamber. The Kethri delegates clicked their mandibles nervously. They were insect-like beings, their bodies covered in hard shells of green and gold. The Mordani representatives sat in stony silence, their massive forms like living mountains of gray rock. The Drethkai floated in their water-filled spheres, their tentacles waving gently. "In 300 years," Daniel continued, "humanity has given much to this council. We have shared our technology. We have fought in your wars. We have sent our best minds to your universities and our strongest soldiers to your defense fleets. We have asked for nothing except to be treated as equals." The Valari Empress smiled slightly. It was not a kind smile. "And as we have explained many times, Ambassador, equality must be earned. Your species is still young. You have much to learn." "With respect, Empress, we have learned plenty." Daniel reached into his jacket and pulled out a small device. "I have here a record of every contribution humanity has made to the Council over the past 3 centuries. Medical advances that have saved billions of lives across a dozen species. Engineering solutions that improved your Jumpgate network by 40%. Diplomatic interventions that prevented 3 major wars. Minor contributions," rumbled Lord Drac of the Mordani. His voice was like stones grinding together. "Any species could have done the same." "But they did not," Daniel replied. "We did." Silence fell over the chamber. Daniel could feel the weight of 1,000 eyes upon him. He could sense the disapproval radiating from the elder races, the quiet certainty that he was being impolite, that he was forgetting his place. He did not care anymore. Distinguished members, Daniel said, I have one final announcement to make. After careful consideration and extensive debate among our people, the United Earth Federation has reached a decision. He turned to Lauren, who handed him a single sheet of paper. It was an old tradition, putting important decisions on physical documents. Humans had always been sentimental that way. As of this moment, Daniel read aloud, the United Earth Federation formally and permanently withdraws from the Galactic Council. We release all claims to shared territories, renounce all treaty obligations, and sever all diplomatic ties. Effective immediately, human space is closed to all non-human vessels. The chamber erupted into chaos. Delegates shouted in a dozen languages. The Kethri clicked frantically. The Mordani roared with what might have been anger or laughter. The Valari Empress raised her hand for silence, but it took several minutes before order was restored. You cannot be serious, she said finally. Do you understand what you are doing? Outside the protection of the Council, your species will be vulnerable to every threat in the galaxy. Pirates, hostile empires, the unknown dangers that lurk in unexplored space. You will not survive a century. Daniel allowed himself a small smile. Perhaps, you have underestimated us, as you always have. Either way, the decision is made. He turned and walked toward the exit, Lauren falling into step beside him. Behind them, the chaos continued. Delegates argued and shouted. Some called for humanity to reconsider. Others said, good riddance. As they reached the great doors of the chamber, Lauren leaned close to Daniel. That was either the bravest thing anyone has ever done, she whispered, or the most foolish. History will decide, Daniel replied. But I know one thing for certain. We were never going to earn their respect by begging for it. If humanity is going to have a future among the stars, we need to build it ourselves. They stepped through the doors and did not look back. Behind them, the singing crystals of the council chamber fell silent for the first time in 10,000 years, as if the building itself knew that something fundamental had changed. The day humans left the Galactic Council was the day everything began to shift. The elder races did not know it yet. They assumed the foolish young species would return within a decade, humbled and desperate for protection. They went back to their ancient routines, their endless debates, their comfortable certainty that the universe would always remain as it had been. They were wrong. They were very, very wrong.